Most people think emotions are just feelings, but in real life, emotions behave more like a steering wheel. If you don't hold it, something else will. Welcome back to The Passive Path. Today, we're talking about emotional management and why it quietly determines wealth, health, and relationships more than most strategies do. And to be clear, this is not therapy and it's not hype. It's practical. Joining me is a fictional guest, an author voice character built to explore these ideas calmly without credentials or personal claims. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here. I like that framing, calm, practical, no performance. If we do this right, listeners won't feel motivated, they'll feel oriented.
Let's start with the big claim. You're saying emotions are the hidden reason people don't get the outcomes they want.
Yes, and I'll say it carefully. Emotions don't decide your destiny, but they heavily influence your decisions, your consistency, and what you tolerate. If those three drift, your results drift: money, relationships, even health habits.
People might push back and say, my problem isn't emotions, my problem is money. How do you respond?
I'd say money problems often become emotion problems because money triggers fear, comparison, shame, urgency, and fear turns smart people into short-term thinkers. That's the trap.
Give me a concrete example.
Investing is a clean one. Two people buy the same solid index fund. One stays consistent for 10 years. The other panic sells twice during downturns. The difference isn't knowledge, it's emotional tolerance for discomfort.
So emotional control is basically risk management.
Exactly. Emotional management is personal risk management. It prevents you from making irreversible choices during temporary feelings.
In the transcript you're drawing from, there's a story about being misunderstood as a kid. Can you retell the idea in a way that fits adult life?
Sure. Imagine you're blamed for something you didn't do. It could be at school, at work, or even inside a family. The pain isn't only the event. The pain is the feeling of unfairness with no outlet. If you carry that for years, it changes your personality. You become defensive, reactive, or quietly resentful.
And that resentment becomes expensive.
Very expensive. It leaks into how you speak, how you interpret messages, how you negotiate, and what you assume about other people's intentions. It's like driving with a slightly turned steering wheel for years. You don't notice it daily, but you end up far off course.
Okay, now I want to talk about this principle. If someone doesn't understand you, don't get angry. That sounds noble. It also sounds impossible.
It's impossible if you think it means be emotionless. It becomes possible when you interpret it differently. Don't make their misunderstanding the center of your life. You can feel the sting. You just don't build a home there.
How?
First, notice that misunderstanding is common. People have partial information, different values, different cognitive bandwidth. Second, separate being wronged from being harmed. Sometimes someone is wrong about you, but it doesn't actually damage your future unless you react badly.
That's an important distinction. Wrong doesn't always mean dangerous.
Right. Many situations are annoying, not life-threatening. When you treat annoyance like an emergency, you burn energy you need for building.
In your source material, there's also an ancient-style story. A strong person gets publicly humiliated and chooses not to fight. People hear that and think it's cowardice.
Yes, the popular version is he swallowed humiliation, but the deeper version is he refused to gamble his future on a stranger's ego game.
Say more.
When someone provokes you, they're offering you a trade. The trade is, give me your attention, your time, your reputation, maybe your freedom, so I can feel powerful for 5 minutes. The emotionally untrained person says yes. The trained person says no.
So the real skill is refusing bad trades.
Exactly, and that applies everywhere, in traffic, in comment sections, in office politics, even in relationships where someone tries to bait you into the same fight every week.
Let's do traffic, because everyone has been there.
Perfect. Someone cuts you off. You feel disrespected. Your body spikes with adrenaline. If you follow that emotion, you speed up. Tailgate, gesture, maybe you create actual danger. But if you zoom out, the situation is usually one of 3 things. 1, they didn't notice you. 2, they noticed and are inconsiderate. 3, they caused real damage, and that becomes a legal or insurance process, not an emotional duel.
I like that latter. Ignorance, inconsideration, or actual harm.
Exactly, and each level has a different response. If it's ignorance, you protect yourself and move on. If it's inconsideration, you still protect yourself and move on, because teaching them is not your job. If it's harm, you document and escalate appropriately. Anger is optional in all three, useful sometimes as a signal but not as a driver.
That's a big theme here. Emotion as a signal, not a steering wheel.
Yes, emotion is data, not instructions.
Now let's go to the modern version, getting attacked online. Some people build a brand, share ideas, and then get hit by criticism, sometimes fair, sometimes cruel.
Online criticism is like walking past a row of strangers who can throw words at you without consequences. If you try to debate every stranger, you'll never build anything. The real danger is not the comment, it's the spiral. You lose sleep, you ruminate, you second guess, you stop shipping work.
So the cost is momentum.
Exactly. And momentum is wealth. Not just money wealth, life wealth. Momentum is health routines, skill building, relationship repair. When emotion breaks momentum, you lose compound growth.
Let's connect this to the passive path audience. What does emotional management look like for someone trying to build financial freedom?
It looks like stability under uncertainty. Markets fluctuate, jobs change, expenses surprise you. Emotional management keeps your decisions aligned with your plan instead of your mood.
Give a scenario.
You're building an emergency fund, you get invited to an expensive weekend trip. Emotion says, if you don't go, you're missing out. Strategy says, if you go, you delay safety. Emotional management is the pause that lets strategy speak.
The pause.
The pause is everything. Most regrets come from decisions made without a pause.
Okay, so how do we actually build that pause?
I'll give 4 tools that don't require a new personality. Tool 1, label the emotion out loud. I'm feeling insulted, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling rushed. Labeling reduces intensity because it moves you from reaction to observation.
That sounds almost too simple.
Simple doesn't mean easy, but it works because your brain can't fully be the actor and the narrator at the same time.
Tool 2?
Time horizon switch. Ask, will this matter in 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months? Not to dismiss real issues, but to stop exaggerating. If it won't matter in 10 days, it probably doesn't deserve 10 minutes of rage.
Tool 3?
Choose your arena. Some conflicts are right versus wrong. Others are useful versus useless. If the fight doesn't improve your life, it's not your arena.
Tool 4?
Replace revenge with repair. When you feel provoked, your mind wants to restore status. Instead of restoring status through domination, restore stability through action. Walk away, write the email later, save the money, go to the gym, do the next right thing. It's not dramatic, but it compounds.
The next right thing is a strong phrase. Because it doesn't argue with your emotions, it just moves.
Yes, emotions want a story. Action wants a step.
In the source material, there's also this idea that negative emotions hurt you first, health-wise. Some people hear that and think it's mystical.
We can keep it grounded. Chronic stress affects sleep, digestion, immune function, and decision-making. Even if you ignore biology, you can observe behavior. When you're angry, you snack, you scroll, you skip workouts, you pick fights. That's enough to see the cost.
So even without spiritual language, the point stands.
Right, you don't need a philosophy to see that bitterness is heavy. It consumes bandwidth you could invest elsewhere.
Let's talk about not blaming others. This can be misunderstood as tolerating bad behavior.
Absolutely. Don't blame others does not mean accept abuse. It means don't outsource your inner stability. You can set boundaries, leave situations, involve rules and systems without letting resentment own your mind.
Give a workplace example.
Your manager undervalues you. You have options, document wins, request clarity, apply elsewhere, build skills, change teams. What doesn't help is daily resentment with no plan. That resentment doesn't punish your manager. It punishes your evenings.
That's sharp. It punishes your evenings.
Yes, and evenings are where your future gets built. Learning, relationships, rest.
Another tricky one, parenting or family dynamics. People feel misunderstood by the people closest to them.
Family is where emotional habits get trained the earliest. You can practice a lot there, but gently. If you expect perfect understanding, you'll suffer. If you aim for clear enough, you'll be more peaceful.
What does clear enough look like?
You say what you mean once, calmly. You repeat with consistency, not intensity, and you accept that some people will interpret through their own wounds and limitations. Your job is to be honest and steady, not to control their interpretation.
That's hard for ambitious people. They want control.
Yes, ambitious people often confuse control with safety. Emotional maturity is realizing you can't control outcomes, but you can control your inputs.
I want to revisit the ancient story angle. The takeaway wasn't never fight, it was don't fight the wrong fights.
Exactly, there are fights worth taking, defending someone from harm, protecting your integrity, enforcing boundaries, but those fights are chosen deliberately, not triggered impulsively.
So we're not advocating passivity.
Not at all. We're advocating agency.
Let's make this more actionable with a simple decision filter. If someone insults you, what questions should you ask in the moment?
3 questions. 1. Is this person important to my future? 2. Is responding likely to improve anything? 3. What's the cost if I respond badly? If the person isn't important, improvement is unlikely and the cost is high. Walk away.
That's the bad trade framework again.
Yes, most anger is agreeing to a bad trade.
Earlier, you mentioned a time horizon switch. That feels very aligned with long-term thinking.
It is. Long-term thinking is emotional training because long-term rewards often require short-term discomfort.
This is basically the whole channel.
Exactly. The passive path is about building systems that keep you calm enough to stay consistent.
Now, in the transcript, there's also a point about energy, positive and negative. I want to translate that into practical terms for listeners who don't love that language.
We can treat energy as your daily capacity, capacity to focus, capacity to be patient, capacity to do the boring things that build wealth. Negative emotion drains capacity, positive emotion restores it through sleep, gratitude, connection, exercise, meaningful work.
So the question becomes, how do you protect capacity?
Exactly. Protect it like money. Budget it. Don't spend it on strangers, petty conflicts, or imagined battles.
Don't spend it on strangers. That's a line people will remember.
Good, because most people are exhausted from fights that never needed to happen.
Let's give listeners a practice plan, something they can do for the next 7 days.
Here's a simple plan. Day 1, 2, awareness. Each time you feel anger or anxiety, write one sentence, I felt X when Y happened. No analysis, just data. Day 3, 4, pause training. When you feel the spike, take one slow breath and ask, what's the next right thing? Then do that. Day 5, 6, time horizon. Ask, will this matter in 10 days? If not, practice letting it shrink. Day 7, review. Look for patterns, which people, which topics, which times of day trigger you, then adjust your environment. Less doom scrolling, fewer late-night arguments, clearer boundaries.
That's clean. Awareness, pause, horizon, review.
Yes, and notice none of it requires winning an argument. It requires winning your own attention back.
Before we close, I want to address one more misconception. Some people think emotional control means suppressing emotions.
Suppression is pretending you don't feel something. Control is admitting you feel it and choosing behavior anyway. Control is honest. Suppression is denial.
So the goal is not never angry, it's not owned by anger.
Exactly. Feel it, name it, choose.
All right, let me summarize the practical takeaways for listeners. 1, emotions are signals, not instructions. 2, most anger is a bad trade, your future for someone else's moment. 3, build the pause, label the emotion, switch the time horizon, choose your arena, do the next right thing. 4, protect your capacity like money. Don't spend it on strangers. And if you're building wealth, health, or better relationships, emotional management isn't a side skill. It's the thing that keeps you consistent long enough for compounding to work.
That's well said. If listeners remember one line, I hope it's this: you don't need to win every moment. You need to win your direction.
That's a perfect closer. Thanks for joining us on The Passive Path.
Thanks for having me. Take care, everyone.